Welcome back to the channel, everyone. How you doing? I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here for just a couple minutes of your day. I appreciate you guys. So click on this video. You guys already know what it is. It's going to be tropes. This is a video about my favorite tropes in all of literature. Currently, I made 10 of them. They're not in order. I'm going to say number 1 and then number 10 like that. But truthfully, I tried to figure out an order, but I can't really figure out my least favorite versus my favorite one of them. I like them all, and there's gonna be one I'm gonna name. Whoever's gonna be the first one I name, it's probably gonna be on my least favorite tropes too. I'm gonna do one about my least favorite tropes as well, and we'll go from there. It's not nearly as many. I think there's like 8 of them that I like, well, that I dislike. These are 10 that I do enjoy, and I usually, if I read the trope, I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm very open-minded about it. So let's start this off. Number 10 on this is mercy. So I'm going to get into mercy a little bit more on the tropes I dislike as well. So mercy, I like it, but I also dislike mercy a lot. So like mercy is where the main character is going to kill a villain or somebody, but instead he chooses not to. Kind of like how like Spider-Man is, so where Spider-Man could kill his villains, but Spider-Man chooses not to. Same thing with Batman, because they believe, hey, mercy's the better route. I'm really 50-50 with that, because sometimes mercy makes sense. If you give the villain mercy, then the villain sometimes will just retort and try and kill you anyways, and then you have to end up killing them anyways. So that's my thing with mercy. I think it's very good character growth, especially if you start out with the character where they are ruthless and stuff, and then they eventually learn how to be merciful. I think that's really good writing. Number 9 on this list, like I said, they're not in order, it's just how I wrote them down, so I'm gonna read them like that. But number 9 is dragons. So I read fantasy, but my fantasy reads honestly don't have a lot of dragons in it. The only dragon book I've read, and I'm not even finished with the series because I just didn't really enjoy the second book too much, is the Aragon series. When I read the first book, it was cool because there was dragons. I was like, oh yeah. So usually when it involves dragons, I want to read it, but I never really read books with dragons, and I don't know why. For someone who has read plenty of fantasy books in my lifetime, I haven't really read things with dragons. I'm not gonna count the Wheel of Time because it Rand's the Dragon Reborn, but technically there's no dragons in this book. So I'm like, where's the dragons? And that's my other thing too, is like with the dragons, I want to see freaking dragons. Like I don't have a problem with Wheel of Time's Dragon Reborn. The whole story makes sense, so we're not gonna get into that. But with just dragons in general, I want to see freaking dragons, bro. Sadly, I don't really see that because I don't really read books with dragons, and it's just weird because I want to see dragons, but then I'm like, I'll read this and there's no dragons. Number 8 is the Chosen One. So the Chosen One trope is a very, very basic trope, but it's also just an easy trope. I enjoy it, and the Chosen One trope is kind of like the farm boy from home. That's kind of why I put them together, but the Chosen One trope's a really easy one. Usually the main character has to do something that involves saving the world or defeating this evil because of family, like family lore, or he's just has a power that has been seen in many, many years. And I think the Chosen One trope is fine. I've never had a problem with it. As long as it makes sense to me, I don't have a problem with the Chosen One trope. I think Chosen One trope is a really easy way to get into the story personally. Like for me, when I write, I usually do the Chosen One because it's just really easy to get into that world, and you get to follow the Chosen One through all these new avenues, and you just learn a lot with it. I think it's a really fun, easy trope. I really don't have a problem with it. Number 7 on this list is ally. When I mean ally, to how I picture ally is where you have 2 rivals, and they become allies to defeat the bigger evil. I personally like that kind of stuff. It's more in anime, I feel like, than in fantasy books that I've read. It's more of in the anime realm. So like a good example is like Naruto and Sasuke, Vegeta and Goku. That's always a really fun thing to read. One trope I do like, and I haven't read enough of it to really like wow. And it's number 6 on the list is the Veteran Soldier. I think the Veteran Soldier is a really cool one. There's a book that I want to read. It's called The Sword Defiant, and it starts off with a veteran soldier, and he already kind of lived his early glory days, and he's kind of like more retired, and now he's just roaming. And I really enjoy veteran soldiers. I think the veteran soldier trope doesn't get used too much, and I like that. I felt like if it was overdone, I don't think I would like it as much. But with veteran soldier, I get to, he's already lived his life. He got to live a lot of dark things, and now he's just an older man. And I kind of like that trope that he's already worn, he's battle worn, he's seen things already. So his character is a lot different than what he would have been when he first started. Next on the list is the crew. This was usually pretty popular in fantasy books, is where you have the chosen one or the main character, and you usually have like 4 or 5 other people in that group with him. And that's a really fun thing, because sometimes the crew is just way cooler than the main character. Most times it is. I like the crew aspect, because in the crew aspect, they all have different characters, they're all different, they all have personalities. If you do it right, it makes it feel very believable to me. I feel like it's very believable when I read this, if the crew is written really well, where I'm like, oh yeah, these guys definitely know each other, these guys have known each other for years. And I like that aspect when I read these kind of books. It's not rare when I'm like, oh, this is not believable. But I do like it, especially after the first book, when the crew starts getting together and are slowly getting there. It usually takes the second book to be a make or break for me for the crew. Next one on the list. This one's a pretty simple one. I'm probably not going to go into detail about this one. Is the Dark Lord trope. Now, the Dark Lord trope, pretty simple. If you watch Lord of the Rings, you know. If you read Wheel of Time, you know. It's a very simple trope. It's probably, besides the chosen one trope, which usually is the chosen one and the Dark Lord trope are usually together 9 times out of 10, it's such an easy trope to just start the story. Like in Lord of the Rings, you know who is the Dark Lord. Like you know the trope already without really diving into it, and I like that a lot. I think the Dark Lord trope is just super simple, and you literally could be like, oh man, Drywall has returned, and then it's like, that's the story, how you defeat Drywall. I like that aspect. I think it's a pretty simple aspect. It makes it simple. So the next one on this list is Found Family. Found Family kind of reminds me of the crew. They're kind of mashed together. When I think of Found Family, I think of 2 different things. Either A, the main character is in the crew and that's like his new family, or is literally like, oh my gosh, it's my mom, or it's my dad, or my brother. I like those aspects, especially when it's found family in like, so there's a series called The Dresden Files, and I'm not gonna go into too much detail about it, but Dresden meets a sibling of his very deep into the book, and it is so cool, and the way that they bond together throughout the rest of the series is very, very cool. I didn't expect that when I was reading it. And at first I was really hit or miss with it, but I do enjoy it. I think the found family thing, as long as it's written really well, is a fun trope. And man, it could really hit your emotions. Your main character could really develop a good relationship with a family member that he hasn't seen or has never met, you know, and then the rest of the book can be built upon. So the last one is a romantic one, and that is fake dating. So I've been getting a little bit into romance, and I think fake dating is a really fun trope, personally. I think the aspect of them pretending to date for family or friends or just something along those lines, and then they end up realizing how much they really care about each other, it's a fun little trope. I think it's very typical. Romance for their tropes are just as obvious as like fantasy tropes are. With fake dating, it's just really cute, it's fun, and you get to learn a lot more about these characters, of how they act in a relationship, and then that's how you see them actually grow. So those are my favorite tropes in literature in general. Most of them are just fantasy tropes, but those are my favorite ones. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys check out all my socials down below. Make sure you guys comment and tell me what are your favorite tropes. What's your least favorite tropes? I'll be doing that video in a couple weeks, and I cannot wait to do that. But of course, make sure you guys stay safe, stay hungry, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.